Welcome to the Press One for Nick podcast. My name is Nick Limsdell, and my guest this week is Jerry Campbell. Jerry is the Director of E&I Ops of Consumer Services at United Healthcare. Welcome to the Press One for Nick podcast, Jerry.
Hey, welcome, Nick. Glad to join you.
Yeah, I always enjoy our conversations. We just have never recorded them, so I'm looking forward to this today. But before we get started, I ask every single guest, what's one thing people might not know about you?
So the one thing that people might not know if they don't dig deep under my LinkedIn page is that I was in the military, retired military person, 30 years active duty service in the United States Air Force. So that's what I did, Nick.
That's awesome. Thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's crazy because I was actually talking to one of my fellow military guy that worked for me in the military yesterday, and he was saying how we brought the lessons learned from the military into the corporate management style. And I was telling him how true it was and how we talk about, giving the power to the frontline employee and stuff like that. I'm sure we'll talk about, we've always talked about, Nick. But yeah, just really short stories about my military career. I was in special, what they call now Air Force Special Warfare. Member of the TACP community. We lived and breathed on Army bases of the combat units, Army Rangers, Special Forces, combat units. We're the seldom seen Air Force guy. And what we did is go in, jump in, helicopter in with the Army on the front lines and called in airstrikes for the Army or the Marines or the Navy, whoever we were with. So that's what we did. So 30 years of that. And I guess the excitement wore off because I had to get out and start working with customer experience.
Man, going from that to the front line of customer experience, I don't know. That's pretty awesome. I mean, it seems like a pretty intense role, but 30 years is a pretty good run. So what was your favorite place to live in those 30 years? Because I'm sure you just didn't stick to one spot.
No, I didn't. I would have to say, Europe was my all-time favorite. My family really enjoyed Europe, and even though I wasn't around a lot, they got to travel. And when I was home, we got to travel, right? We would, we were stationed in Germany, but we were 2 hours from, not even 2 hours from the border of France. So we would drive to France, drive to Belgium, drive to Holland, Italy, wherever. So traveling around Europe and being able to experience different cultures and just enjoy the European lifestyle for 4 years was the highlight of my career.
That's awesome. That's so cool that you get the opportunity to go from little cities to cities, or countries to countries for that matter. But let's bring it back to customer experience. We have a lot of fun and honest conversations. One thing that I haven't really asked you or dug in a whole lot is where does customer experience start?
Yeah, Nick, and I talk about my military background, and it really starts with that frontline employee. So the customer experience starts with the employee experience, right? That phone or chat agent, the front counter clerk, or door greeter responsible for delivering on the promises of the company. And that frontline employee sets the tone for the entire company. And if they're having a bad day, Nick, if Nick is having a bad day and he's on the phones and the management is not treating you right, and you're just getting, egged and pulled and doing different things, what kind of service are you going to deliver to that member? Yeah. Right? And so that's where, I talk about all the time. It begins right there in the front lines with the employee. We got to have a great employee experience in order for them to deliver on the company's promise of customer experience.
Yeah, well said. I think of my analogy of that as the comedian who just. I'm not saying the customer service rep isn't very good, but I'm as a comedian, and they're up there telling jokes, and they just happen to have bad jokes, and they just keep getting thrown stuff at them, which is why they have to have that
Yeah,
chicken wire get put up. Like, how many times is does the customer service net rep need that chicken wire, maybe
yeah,
internally and externally, to combat the stuff that's getting thrown at them? Uh, that's uh,
absolutely.
that's a it's not going to leave my head for the near future. I love that. So why is it important to involve your employees then in the decision making process to deliver that customer experience? Because you said the employee experience kind of is a direct correlation to customer experience.
Yeah, I think when you involve them in that decision making, you're giving them some power, right? They feel invested, they feel involved in the overall process. It is the tools to help them, and they know what is needed and what they want to help to deliver that, right? A lot of times, what you find is the agents or the frontline call center people, they're really wanting to help, but there's a lot of stuff that is impeding their ability to help um, the customer. Far too often, we have senior level executives and senior level leaders. They said, "Oh, I know exactly what we need. I know exactly. Let's throw this omni-channel chat at them, and they will be so awesome." We look at the metrics. Oh, we can deflect this many calls, or we can help this much people self-service, but it's just technology they're throwing at it. And at the end of the day, again, it's all about the human interaction. It doesn't matter if it's digital or email or call. If you can't relate, human to human, then you're not going to deliver on a great experience.
Yeah, a lot of organizations forget that humans are doing business with humans, and
Yeah,
it's not just about the chat. Like it's about the omni-channel experience. It's about driving efficiency. It's about reducing effort. But if you don't have the people and the process and then the technology involved, you're kind of on. It's like the three pillar of the stool. Like you're going to be off kilter if you're on two of them. You're kind of leaning backwards, trying to figure out how to navigate this. But there's more often than not, there is organizations don't have that comment box per se of,
right.
hey, how can we improve as an organization? What are some of the nuggets that you see on the front line, like you keep going back to, where we can improve so that leadership can make educated decisions? If they don't hear from that front line, they're basically it's just best effort, and and best
There
effort
you
isn't good
go.
enough.
And you're so right, right? And I like what you said about the process and people. You and I talk about this a lot before, and you got to have those processes down first before you even start throwing technology at these things, right? Um, that as I always tell people, technology is there to complement that process and those humans that are performing that process. But
Yeah.
too far and too often that, again, because we haven't involved those people in the front lines, we've complicate the process and the human interaction, which cause us to deliver a failed experience.
Yeah, and I would say the same is true with consumer. Like if you're not actually looking at the data or asking them, "Hey, we're trying some stuff out. What do you think? How does this system and how does this technology feel or act to you?" And if they didn't actually ask for that, and say, "Hey, does the customer actually want this, or we just want this whiz bang technology to be implemented because we think it's neat and we want to play with it?"
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And again, you've seen it, I've seen it. where the companies is like, hey, the new thing out is SMS text and video and text to chat and all these other things, right? And so, well, our competitors doing it, so we have to get in the game and do it. And it just increases the level of anxiety on the part of the agent when you can't bring them in on the solution, right? That technology solution. They need to be there, um, filling out and letting you know what they really need to make it happen. Those are frontline employees. They know all the pain points from the frontline perspective. So if they're not brought in during the selection, the onboarding and operations of the whole thing, then we're missing something, right? I know my previous role at 7-Eleven, I brought them in and I made sure that I was like, hey, we're going to bring in, this workflow, or I'm looking at how do we respond to our customers in the app? And these are the tools we're looking in. And, a lot of them sometimes were surprised that I brought them in, but at the end of the day, they made the best decisions. And it gave me the best advice so I could make the best decisions on what piece of technology to bring in.
Yeah, I think on top of that though, it's also I love that you did that because it gets their perspective, and their perspective is something that you're not always going to have. They're going to show you something or tell you something or teach you something that you don't already know, and that takes a little bit of humility.
Yes, right.
But
Yeah.
yeah, but at the same time, they're also bought in because they're, instead of being like, "Oh, we got this new whiz bang stuff," like, thanks Jerry for this stuff, but we didn't really need it. But instead, you asked for their opinion and their input in that selection process and that onboarding and the operations and the marketing, etc. So they're like, we already have skin in the game. We already had our
Yeah.
ability to input this or to have involvement. And I think there's a lot to say of, just because you might not implement everything that they say, they have at least been heard. And
Yes.
bringing that all the way back to the customer is not necessarily always right. Sometimes they just want to be heard.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And um, again, talking to just other CX professionals and my experience in customer, CX, it's just like it's always changing, right? It's ever changing because it is about individual customers. If you relate to one customer, you can't use the same kind of methodology to connect to that next customer because their expectations are different,
Yeah.
right? Um, I was talking to someone yesterday about, um, I'll take my 7-Eleven experiences again. Some people just want to go in and buy something at 7-Eleven, right? They want to get in. It's about convenience. Well, the next person behind them may be looking at, the shelves are dirty or the bathroom's dirty. I'm not going to buy nothing from this store. The first one was, I just need something here to get in and get out. The other one has a different expectation. So you have to be able to relate to each one of those expectations on their level, not on just what you think the overall experience is, but connect to them on their level.
Yeah. Well said. Just thinking of the convenience store experience, somebody could be running out of gas a mile up the road and they just need a gas tank. They could care less of the cleanliness or the convenience because it's more of an emergency. Some
Yeah,
people say, I want a place where I can feel comfortable to bring my kids.
there you go.
And others are saying, I just want a really good spot to have breakfast every morning that is convenient, but also has a quality spot where I don't have to sit in line at Starbucks across the street.
There you go.
And if
There you
and if you
go.
if you took every one of those and just were reactive and say, okay, let's please that one. Okay, let's please that one. Okay, let's please that one. Then you're just being reactive and you're actually looking at the holistic picture. And I think that's kind of where the system breaks.
Yeah.
And if we bring that all the way back to technology, why do organizations feel that technology is always the solution, because if you just force technology, we kind of talked about the people and process, but if you just
Mhm.
force technology, what happens when it's too complex or maybe not even integrated correctly?
So you think about this, right? When it's too complex and, you know, I want to roll it back a little bit because when we talk about integrating the technology, if we just throw it out there, we're going to integrate chat and we're going to do it our way. We haven't talked to the frontline people. First of all, when they get the tools, they're going to have a level of anxiety that they're not familiar with the tool, and they're going to have a learning curve that they have to get familiar with the tool, right? So now you, instead of one piece of change management, you've doubled that because first you have to integrate the technology, working with your technology partners. Now you got to go back to, hey, I'm going to get buy-in from these people, like you said earlier, Nick. Now you're starting over and getting that buy-in that if you brought them in from the beginning, you would have that buy-in automatically. And you're going to decrease the level of anxiety of bringing in a new tool. The most frustrating thing for a call center agent is to say, hey, I'm going to change your telephony system. And all you need to do is figure out how to answer the phones and what's going on. And by the way, it's going to be omni-channel and you're going to be able to do chat and phone. Figure it out, right? Just figure it out. And you don't think there's a level of anxiety there, like, well, I don't know. And then they're going to start doubting their knowledge, that their basic knowledge to answer the questions of the customer because they're
Yeah.
dealing with this complicated system. And so you're going to break down their psyche and their belief that they can deliver on the correct information if we're not bringing them in, getting the buy-in from the beginning, and waiting till the end to do that after we've, leaders, the pompous leaders that we are, we're like, we know what they need. We know what they need. We're going to give it to them. And this is what you need. Now make it work, right?
Yeah.
Their morale is tore down. Productivity is going to drop.
Yeah.
You Again, it's got to be, and you're not empowering anybody that way, and you're not helping your other departments by having that productivity, because the productivity that and stuff that they can be utilizing is listen to these customers. If they were bought in, they could be bringing that stuff in, listening to the customers and telling other departments the things that they need to do to make really rash and great decisions. Listening to the customer, tell them that, hey, this is not working, or this store, this product, or this service is not working. And so we can go back to our marketing teams, our app development teams, or whoever, and say, hey, this is what the customer is saying. No, we don't have time to do that because we're trying to break through the frustration of working a new tool that we weren't bought into.
Yeah, it's interesting. You bring up a really good point, because there's a point in customer service where on the one side there is the legacy technology where the morale and productivity is suffering because you're in not integrated correctly, or it's has to do an update overnight and something crashes, or the reliability is not there. Maybe you have 16 applications you're opening over here.
Right.
And then on the other side, somebody overpromised you what this technology could do, or maybe they said that they're going to be plenty of training, or implementation was going to be this and that. So there's some miscommunication, and then leadership or somebody in whose name is on the line is kind of saying, "Hey, we got this technology. It's going to be awesome. We're going to implement it. You figure it out." So now their morality is still suffering. Their
There you
productivity is still
go.
suffering because they didn't train it right. So, how do you get that? How do you get that middle of the road, that sweet spot, the three bears story, where it's too hot, it's too cold, and it's just right? How do you get that just right middle part?
Yeah, I think again, and I hate to sound like a broken record repeating, but just getting that involvement. And as a leader, when other leaders and stuff, they're talking about technology, um, I'm proactive, and I think most CX professionals should be proactive. If they're not, they should be hearing what their agents are talking about on a daily basis. Sometimes they're telling you the problem without actually telling you the problem, right? They're frustrated with something, and so there's always that aha moment, like man, I can't find this information. Aha, and it's not coming to me quickly. Oh, we need a knowledge management system that gets you the answer. They didn't come out and tell you that that's what they wanted, but you can decipher that, right? And then when you're looking to get that information and that technology, you bring them in on that. But I think it's about talking to them. Again, the employee experience relates directly to the customer experience. Hear what your employees are saying, and they will listen to the customers to deliver on those decisions. And that's what I always do, is connect more than just, hey, your metrics are down today. You're not meeting the average handle time, or you're talking, your ASA is really up. It's got to be beyond those metric numbers. It's got to be, hey, what's going on today? Because they're people, and we still need those people connections to make things go.
Yeah. You touched on something that's, I think, also important is when it comes to your employees, or even for your customers for that matter, is what are they saying and what are they not saying? And for you on the employee side, man, I'm super frustrated because I can't find this. You're not just saying, okay, well, let me help you find it. You're actually going to the root cause of the issue and saying, let's see if what that ultimate issue is, what's that from a 20,000 foot level, and let's see who else is having that problem.
Yes.
Because if you're just fixing the individual person and then going back to the next person, you're creating a mess. So I love that you're understanding the root cause.
There you go.
So you talked about being a customer
Yeah,
experience.
definitely.
Go ahead, Jerry.
No, I was just saying, definitely. You got to go deeper than just that surface level action. So root cause is always what I drive for.
I love it. So you talked about being a CX professional, and we were talking a lot about being a change agent in all of this conversation. So what makes a CX leader, a professional, a change agent in their company?
Yeah, so I think, and I've had this happen to me in three different sectors now. In the financial sector, I worked for Citibank for a while, and then I went to retail, for 7-Eleven, the convenience store kind of stuff. And now I'm at United Healthcare in the medical field, kind of health insurance. And no matter where I've gone, I've seen that, companies talk about CX. They always put it out there. We're customer focused. They throw it out there as part of their values. But what does that really mean when you have all these silos, right? And CX is what breaks all those silos down, right? I can tell you how you can make your department more effective, but you have to change some mindsets. And CX is about changing the mindset, right? So you have to bring it to them in a way that they see the benefits for their department. Because, that's how silos are built up. They're all about protecting their stuff, right? If it's the IT team, they're protecting that. Mm-hmm. If it's my workforce management team, they're protecting this. And the same with operations, advertisement, all that stuff, right? But you bring it back to them, and the customer is saying this, and IT, your app is not working. Let's make sure that, or the website's not working. Let's make sure that, the customer is telling this, I can improve your SEO scores, right? How can I help you improve this? Let me tell you, this is what the customers say. When 7-Eleven, if I reached out and I said, I did an SEO search of 7-Eleven convenience stores, if I'm standing by at 7-Eleven, that should pop up. right? But sometimes it wasn't because of we weren't responding back to our customers. Let's collaborate now, right? Same thing in the app. IT, we had fuel loyalty. And I had this stuff going on here at UHC with, claims and the website. And so I had to go in there and get them to change their mindset and understand what it is. It's not, we have plenty of UX people in the workforce, right? They're doing their test and they're doing their in test and they're saying, oh, the experience is supposed to be like this. It's good. I've tested it inside. I've tested over and over. Boom, let's push it out. But then the customer says differently. So we have to be able to voice that opinion of the customer in order to change the mindset of our partners and help them make better business decisions as well. So there you go.
Yeah. Unfortunately, too many departments inside organizations kind of have their horse blinders on, and they're like, I'm measured on this, and I'm going to run in this direction because that's my focus. That's what I get paid on at the end of the year on my bonus. The customer doesn't see horse blinders.
Yeah.
This is what they see. It's like a fish with eyes on both sides of their head. They're like, I see you as an organization, regardless of what you see and what you think I see you as one. I don't see you as 30 departments. So act like it. Act like a grown adult and stop acting like children. That's the name of this podcast. Stop acting like children and being a grown adult and be a changing agent for customer experience.
Yeah, it's like, the mother that has 5 kids in the grocery store and they're all squabbling, right? Are you a family? Are you a tribe fighting each other? They're all fighting. I want this, I want that, right?
Yeah.
We got to bring that together and make it real whole, right? And so that's what you're right about the blinders. And then you said a fish. I was thinking more like a gecko because they're looking all around, right? But you're spot on with that.
I love that. So Jerry, what's I ask 2 questions to every single guest. And the first one is this: what's one book or person who's influenced you the most in the last year? And then the second one is, if you could leave a note to all customer service reps, it's going to hit everybody's desk Monday at 8 a.m. What would it say?
All right. Yeah, that's good questions, man. I think hope you didn't stomp me with this one, but the one thing that I would say, the one book that has influenced me over this last year, and before I left 7-Eleven, we got to visit Zappos, right? And Tony Shea was not there at the time, and unfortunately, Tony has passed away. But he was serving in his true meaning. But the book, and I have a copy here, is The Power of Wow, right? And what makes this such a good book and just dynamic is that this was written not by Tony Shea, but by the employees of Zappos. It tells their stories. Each section has stories about what they experienced in customer experience, how they create the culture of service, change, and innovation, right? And Tony gives that credit to those employees. Again, just something that I think about when we talk about the frontline employee, empowering them, right? Just imagine you're an employee at Zappos and you're getting empowered to tell your story for this book. Your CEO comes and tells you, hey, we're going to write this book. I need your story. Man, just truly empowering the employees, and their commitment to excellent customer experience.
Yeah, just to pause on that real quick, Jerry, I think it takes a lot of like going back to humility. Like Tony could have been like, man, I'm the best. I'm the greatest. Check out this company I built. Look at all this service and culture and communication and experience. Like, I can write that book. But he decided not to. Yeah, I really respect that.
Yeah, it's just an amazing book and some powerful stories. And again, to your point, that's an inspirational leader to me, is being able to empower your employees in that manner. And then the last thing you said, if I can leave a note to all customer service professionals, what would I say? And I would say, don't let technology drive your CX strategy. Let human interactions be your guiding light. And because at the end of the day, no matter the communication channel, customer experience boils down to that connection on the human level, right? It does, and that's what we struggle with right now is how do we get humanized in the digital realm? How do we humanize and make that connection, that human connection in the digital realm? So that's the challenge of CX right now is not omni-channel because we can have a lot of different channels, but it's making that connection through those different channels.
Yeah, it's kind of like omni empathy.
There you go. There
Yeah,
you go.
I see a new business venture with Jerry and Nick. Omni empathy.
There you go.
Jerry,
Well, I'm
what's the
ready. I'm ready for it, Nick. I'm ready to go with you.
well, Jerry and Nick tour America. So Jerry, before my listeners hang up on me, what's the best way for my listeners to get a hold of you?
Yeah, for me, I'm not a big social media guy, but go and follow me on LinkedIn. I'm always on LinkedIn. You know, I connected. That's how we connected,
That's how
right?
we
You and
connected.
I.
Yeah.
And it's almost been a year or so now, Nick. And
Mm-hmm.
we conversate every so often. And like you said, this is amazing that we talk, but this is every day Nick and Jerry talking, right? We could
Yeah.
talk for hours, but yeah,
Yeah.
go out there, look me up on LinkedIn, and I have my contact information out there on LinkedIn, and let's connect. I would love to connect with you and talk about different strategies and different, visions about CX. But there you go, man.
I love it. Always appreciate our conversations, Jerry, on and off of the record button. But looking forward to the next one. Thanks for joining me on the podcast.
No, it's my pleasure, Nick. Always.